Welcome to the fourth session of the Scholar Series 2018. My name is Carrie, a Year 2 student majoring in Sociology, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies of the day. The Office of Service Learning in Lingnan strives to provide the best opportunities for higher education and service learning stakeholders to understand the integrations of community engagement and different educational experiences through organizing the Scholar Series and workshops. At the previous sections, two scholars, Dr. Timothy Stanton from Stanford University and Dr. Robert Schirmer from University of Minnesota introduced us the concepts of creating shared values in academic science. To continue the dialogue on CSV, the Office of Service Learning works with the Dream Impact. We invite different community stakeholders and agencies to join the section today and creating and sharing the views on CSV. Today's event is composed by two main parts. Firstly, there is an introductory section by Professor Robin Stanley Snell from Lingnan University and Ms. Dorothy Lam from Dream Impact. Secondly, Dr. Fan Ya-Hui from National Pingtung University, Taiwan, will lead an open space workshop. In addition, we will adopt the open space setting, an effective facilitation method to mobilize participants to share the ideas, design project work in a corporate environment. Participants are able to build on each other's ideas in order to solve real issues at these collaborative work sections. I wish the participants a very fruitful and productive sessions today. Now, let's invite the Director of Office of Service Learning, Professor of the Department of Management in Lingnan University, Professor Robin Stanley Snell, to officially open the proceedings and share with us a topic of CSV as the cutting edge of corporate social responsibility. Professor Snell, please.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much to the hosts of today, which is Dream Impact. Sorry, I said Human Impact, but Dream Impact is good. Well, thanks for having me. And I won't ask everyone to introduce themselves, because if that happened, we'd be through my session already, right? But I understand we've got a mixture of students from Lingnan. We've got some distinguished service learning staff from the US. We've got members of the Office of Service Learning. We have people from NGOs. We have social entrepreneurs. And that's probably most of you, I guess. I'd like to talk for about, 20 minutes or so, I suppose, about CSR and CSV, because I think CSV, creating shared value, is the main theme of the workshop today, but it's a kind of originated in business, right? And for many folk who are involved in the community and are very concerned about social and environmental issues, business has been the problem, right? Business has been the naughty elephant, which has been trampling on everything, and the people and the environment. Why is business interested? So I'll be talking about the move from corporate social responsibility to CSV and see if we can understand it a bit better. So starting off with CSR, which is corporate social responsibility, that's been around now, the concept anyway, for nearly 70 years. It's older than me even, right? Just about. The early arguments were that businesses had a lot of power, a lot of social power, a lot of economic power, and that if they didn't exercise that power with responsibility as well, sooner or later it would be taken away from them. Now, I don't know whether in those days they feared a kind of revolution or whatever. They probably did, and they probably happened. But that was the idea. Let's do something for society, otherwise we'll lose our license to do business. And I've just turned everything off there. Oh, here we are. And so one might view this cynically, that if businesses obtain a social license to practice by doing some good, then they can get on with doing the other stuff that they want to do anyway, which would be naughty things. So we have to bear that in mind about corporate social responsibility. Is doing a little bit of good a kind of trick in order to make people think that we're okay now, that we've done a little bit of good, we can get on with it. But anyway, this thinking went a bit further, and so the idea of stakeholders came around. So Frederick talked about, in 1960, began to talk about the obligations to employees and to the communities as stakeholders, and that corporations should be accountable to stakeholders as to shareholders, to counterbalance the economic power. But then there was a backlash. I guess many of you have heard about Milton Friedman, who's passed away some years ago. But Milton Friedman became the kind of icon or emblem of the profit maximisation movement. They said, come on, we know all this CSR rubbish. If we talk about CSR, there's only one corporate social responsibility of business, and that is to make as much money as possible, right? And that's what our responsibility. He said that, argued it fiercely, and he considered that if businesses do anything other than that, it's a squandering of wealth, right? Businesses should stick to the knitting, do what they're good at doing, which is business. And then, if individual shareholders or people who made a lot of money want to help society, it's up to them, right? As individuals, they can give their money away to charities and so on, but business should not get involved. And of course, businesses should do their business in an honest way without deception or fraud. So that's what I said. So the argument raged for many decades, and I think one of the good things about Friedman is that he kind of forced the socially responsible CSR people to articulate their position more elaborately and clearly. So then CSR became a matter of spelling out who the various stakeholders are, and then trying to balance their concerns in some way. And we had the emergence of terms such as corporate social performance, corporate social responsiveness. For example, Frederick argued that whatever line of business a corporation was in, if it was a bank, it doesn't matter. If it's an electricity company, it doesn't matter. It should respond to the social demands of society and stakeholders in whatever way it can. Right? So it's almost a direct opposite of what Friedman was defending. Stewardship, the concept of stewardship, was the idea that we should look after the assets. That could be the environment, it could be the people who work for us, it could be the local community. A good steward is someone who protects and takes care of the needs of various stakeholders. So the ethics of care at the corporate level is an important idea there, and of course stakeholder theory too. And so we can, contrast the stakeholder value theory with the shareholder value theory there, and see that the stakeholder model is more multi-dimensional. Right? It's not just about money, it's not just about profit, it's not just about satisfying the owners and shareholders, but it's moving towards satisfying everyone. And Carroll came along with this pyramid there. It's a triangle. It's just now to me it's just a coincidence. So we've got the economic theories at the base, the foundation upon which all other responsibilities lie. There's legal responsibilities, obeying the law. I think Friedman would agree with the bottom two. And then ethical responsibilities, obligation to do what's right, just and fair, beyond the limits of the law. And philanthropic responsibilities, giving as much as you reasonably can. And then we have the idea then emerging from this, the triple bottom line, which is not just the financial ratios, but also the social and environmental challenges. And so nowadays, companies that are listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange have to disclose their social and economic and environmental impacts on society. They have to write these reports. That's been for the last couple of years. So this is now becoming institutionalized. Now it's more difficult to do this with the social and environmental indicators, indices, than the economic ones. It's hard to standardize, but there are various ISOs that companies are following here. So it's becoming institutionalized. Now, scholars have looked at the relationship between those different bottom lines. So, of course, shareholders, some of them are concerned that is this a trade-off between my dividends and the share value and the economic, the environmental and social performance of the company. So people have studied the correlation between how highly rated companies are on various social and economic environmental indicators and how that matches up to financial performance. And overall, findings are conflicted, but meta-analyses have suggested that there is a small positive correlation, not very much. And that might be because companies that make a lot of money have more money to give back or to invest in social and environmental performance. Or it could be that there is some reputational effect that good social and environmental performance does have an indirect contribution ultimately to the bottom line. So let's take this idea further. Porter and Kramer, and Tim mentioned earlier on this week, in 2006 they coined the term strategic CSR, where they proposed that there was a business case for making CSR more aligned with the competencies of the business, right? So if it's a bank, for example, they might use their various capabilities in financial management to make a social contribution, some microfinance or whatever it might be, right? China Light and Power would perhaps have competencies that could lend themselves to alternative energy and stuff like that, right? To make it more related to what the companies can do. And I can see this when I went to Swire recently. They've got various arms, but one of them is a property development and maintenance arm, and they work with Habitat for Humanity, for example, right? So there's a kind of link there in that if they feel that they have these common, they also work with community arts. The idea is that they want to make living spaces more beautiful. So there's some kind of connection there strategically. But Porter and Kamer criticised corporations for not being sufficiently systematic in connecting their CSR efforts with their core competencies, what they're good at. They felt that in future there should be closer alignment. Now, I don't think they were saying that companies should stop doing other kinds of volunteering, but they should put more effort into, or put special effort into aligning their CSR work with their capabilities. And I guess that's how they eventually then took one more step, which was to raise this concept of creating shared value, which to me is the same as strategic CSR. Right? I don't think it's just another way of packaging it. But they did claim that this was a new way of doing business, which can improve societal conditions. They defined this as policies and operating practices that enhance the competitiveness of the company, while at the same time, creating social and economic and environmental value for society and business. They further argued that this concept is a seed for transforming traditional business thinking, and that by adopting it, organisations can better serve the needs of society, while also saving capitalism. Only that, I think we'll go back to the initial theme, right, which is if we don't do CSR as corporations, we'll end up losing our social license to practice, right? So it's remodelling capitalism, yes, this requires creative and innovative thinking, which is where innovation comes in, right? So, as one might imagine, right, MNC multinationals have now leapt onto the bandwagon and are already claiming to practice CSV. So there's Porter and Kramer have got a website where there's several dozen projects already up there, right? So how do corporations do this, or what are they claiming to do? Well, one way is to create new and affordable products and services. I must be lighting. New affordable products and services that are tailored to the needs of otherwise underserved groups. Right? So we'll look at an example in a minute of that. Another way is to find ways of reducing pollution, resource wastage, etc. Right, and that will, while preserving the environment, will also save costs for the corporation, for example. And a third way involves what they call developing the resources and capabilities of local suppliers and distributors, and fostering longer-term relationships with them. And let's have a look at some examples. So innovation is one of the keys to this, right? And it may not need all that massive investment in material technology. It's about thinking design things and think in a creative way, right? So innovating new products and services can be one important way of driving this. And here's a simple example, right? Taxis are now certain taxis are now able to transport people in wheelchairs, right? Not just separately, but they can actually wheel people on. And that's a product that caters for otherwise underserved groups, right? And I think there's many ways in which companies, large and small, can design and market and deliver these kind of products. Right? So that's one major affordable new services and products. Another one is to redefine productivity in the value chain, and that can be energy use, resource use, ways in which things are being bought and supplied, and so on, right? And very common concern among multinationals when they're operating in undeveloped countries is waste or water management. Right? Water is a big thing in India, in China, well, everywhere. Right? There's not enough of it. So Nestle, and Nestle is a really good example because I get e-bombed by many organisations that are very critical of Nestle, about how they grab resources and so on. Right? So Nestle is a very good example for debate because on the one hand they get criticised a lot for naughty things that they're alleged to do, but on the other hand they get cited a lot for projects like this where they are putting effort into managing waste water that in ways that not only reduces the consumption of water used for their products, right, but also has side benefits for the local business communities, agricultural communities who can use the water coming off for irrigation and stuff like that. And that's not just Nestle, it's also Coca-Cola, right? I've got my own case study. We found out that Coca-Cola is doing this as well in partnership with small farms, and they're not just doing it in their factories, they're also transferring the technology to other small businesses that may not be related to, so they're doing it as part of a CSR initiative. They know, they have the knowledge, and therefore they're brokering that knowledge and giving support to small operations to manage water in a more socially useful way. So there's that. And then the third one is enabling local clusters. This is a Porter and Kramer term. And what they mean by that is developing the capabilities of suppliers, right, or future suppliers, right? And so organisations can train their suppliers to get up to speed, to learn how to be sufficiently high quality in order to have a long-term relationship with them, right? So it's a Korean MNC that does a lot of work in IT mentoring, right? Where it's a bit like this setup, I think, in many ways. They have a 6-month IT mentoring program where young people dreaming to be IT specialists can be mentored by employees of this firm and can either start up their own businesses or become employees. And this is the CSV idea, that the more capacity and capability is built in the local community, that's good for the firm because many of those people will end up becoming employees. not all of them, just some of them. And this idea is being used by Kirin in Zhuhai. They're doing the same thing. Now, they're a beer company, right? And will make wonder about beer companies. What about a cigarette company that promotes low-tar cigarettes, right? This is making their products less dangerous, right? But well, it's still cigarettes, but cigarettes are cigarettes, right? And alcohol is alcohol, right? Kirin has done a lot of work on zero alcohol beers, but they still sell alcohol beers, but they do a lot of work on low alcohol. So again, let's ask questions about this, right? Corporations are corporations. Is a socially responsible CSV and CSV work they do, is that just a mask? Are they still Mr. Hyde? Or is Mr. Hyde turning into Dr. Jekyll? Famous story about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. One day he's a nice guy, doctor, the next night he's so, but anyway, these are efforts, and so one might regard CSV as a cutting edge of CSR, and one might also still have reservations about all this. I think it's good to have reservations about all this. And I think also that CSR can address issues that CSV may still not be able to address. Because, as I said, I think last week, or earlier this week, get mixed up, I think it was earlier this week, that corporations are somewhat arrogant. You know, they actually spend all their time saying how good they are, how much they know, how fantastic they are. But when you are catering for underserved groups or dealing with social problems, there are complexities that corporations are not used to addressing, right? It's not their main business, right? It goes back to what their core competencies are. So they have to learn, or they have to unlearn their arrogance, right? And they have to learn to work with people whom they might normally not employ, right? They might be working with partners who they rejected as employees 20 years ago, working in other fields now, and have talents that they weren't interested in at the time, and now they realise they need to work collaboratively and solve community problems. Right? So they have to think things in a different way, right, and accept diversity, right, and work with people who they wouldn't have accepted for an interview or they rejected. People like me, for example. But still people say that CSV is unlikely to pick some of the really thorny issues about human rights, bribery and corruption. Right. Now let me challenge Elkington, because my doctoral student is doing some work with a Pakistan journalist organisation called Mishal, and Mishal is training journalists in various quarters to report on those thorny issues like corruption, which is a big deal in Pakistan, like malnutrition, lack of awareness of malnutrition. Vishal is a business. They make a lot of money. He's a very wealthy guy, but he's passionate about CSV, and he is addressing those thorny issues, right? But this is the cutting edge, so it isn't written about much yet. So I'll pass over to Dorothy now. Thank you very much.